Hello, dear students. We are reading the Rattrap. We are on page number 37. Let us start. In the previous lecture, we discussed that Rattrap seller who was late near the forge in order to take some rest for night or half a night so that he could regain some sort of strength to move forward towards his destination. Meanwhile, he was sleeping. The ironmaster came and he invited him to spend a night with them at his home, the manor house, but he refused. The ironmaster leaves the place and thinks that his daughter would be a better fellow to persuade him to give note to his extended invitation. And from there, what happened? Let's read. It was not more than half an hour before they heard the sound of the carriage wheels outside the forge, and near the guests came in. But this time it was not the headmaster. The headmaster has left, and half an hour has passed. The story goes like this. यानी अभी आयरन मास्टर वहाँ से निकले थे, उसका अभी आधा घंटा या इसके लगभग कुछ वक्त गुजरा था कि क्या हुआ. The sound of the carriage wheels outside the forge and a new guest came in, but this time it was not the iron master. But the new guest came in, but this was not the iron master himself. Means he has not come again to visit the place, but it was somebody other. Who it was, but this time it was not the ironmaster. He had sent his daughter, apparently hoping that she would have a better powers of persuasion than himself. He had sent his daughter to persuade the Rattrap seller to spend a night with them. They took him as a captain who had given up the job from the job of the military service. She entered, followed by a valet carrying on his arm a big fur coat. When she entered, she was followed by a valet. Valet is a person, a male servant who performs personal services such as taking care of clothing, etc. यानी वैलेट इस बंदे को कहते हैं, शख्स को कहते हैं जो एक मेल सर्वेंट का काम करता है, जो मर्द होता है, मर्द नौकर होता है, और वो पर्सनल केयर अपने मालिक का पर्सनल केयर वो करता है अपने मालिक का. मिसाल के तौर पर उसके कपड़ों वगैरह का वो ख्याल करता है, उसको ऑर्डर में रखता है. इसको हम वैलिड कहते हैं. और वैलिड हैज़ another meaning also. It is a device such as a rack or a tray or just like a cord holder for holding personal things. ये इस की दूसरी मीनिंग हो सकती है. She entered, followed by a valet carrying on his arm a big fur coat. And what was the valet? What was the servant carrying? He was carrying a big fur coat, and big fur coat was for the Rattrap seller, because the Rattrap seller was dressed in rags. He was not properly dressed. He was not neatly dressed. And according to the iron master, it was one of the hurdles, one of the obstructions which restricted the Rattrap seller to visit his home in order to think himself an inferior person. carrying on his arm a big fur coat. She was not at all pretty, but seemed modest and quite shy. As for the headmaster's daughter was concerned, she was not looking pretty, she was not very beautiful and attractive, but modesty was there. She was very modest woman and very shy woman. Means she was a very disciplined woman. In the forge, everything was just as it had been earlier in the evening, and everything was as it was when the Iron Master visited the place. Nothing has changed. Everything was looking uh, same. The master blacksmith, and his apprentice still sat on their bench, and the iron and the charcoal still glowed in the furnace. The ironsmith was there, his apprentice was there, and they were sitting on the bench as they were when the ironmaster had come. And the iron and the charcoal still glowed in the furnace, and iron and charcoal were glowing, and it was same, exactly same when the ironmaster visited half an hour ago. Means nothing has changed. The stranger had stretched himself out on the floor and laid a piece of big iron under his head, and his hat pulled down over his eyes. And the right trap seller has stretched himself out. दूसरे अल्फाज में ये हम कहेंगे कि जो राइट ट्रैप सेलर था उसने अपने आउट पाउंड पे सारे थे, वो ऐसे लेटा हुआ था आउट ऑन द फ्लोर, बिल्कुल फर्श पर लेटा हुआ था. एंड lay with a piece of big iron under his head, and his hat pulled down over his eyes. He had done two things. He had performed two things in order to uh, make himself something comfortable. He has put a big piece of big iron under his head, who worked for him as a pillow, and his hat pulled down over his eyes, and he had pulled his head down. Perhaps it was his habit, or it was done in order to save his eyes from the rays emanating from the glowing iron in the forge, so that he could not get disturbed during his sleep. ये इस वजह से किया गया था कि शायद या तो उसकी आदत थी, उसने अपने हैट को अपनी आँखों पे रखा था, या इसकी आदत थी, या दूसरी ये चीज़ हो सकती थी कि जो चमकता हुआ लोहा भट्ठी में था उसकी किरणें या उसकी चमकावट से उसकी नींद मुतासिर हो सकती थी, उस वजह से उसने किया था. As soon as the young girl caught sight of him, she went up and lifted his hat. The man was evidently used to sleeping with one eye open. He jumped up abruptly and seemed to be quite frightened. When the iron master's daughter sighted him, she caught sight of him. The young girl is it is referred to the ironmaster's daughter. She was a young girl, and when she caught sight of him, she went up and lifted his hat as his father had did earlier. जैसे उसके बाप ने उसकी वो हैट उठा ली थी, उसने इसको हालांकि कुछ फाड़ा था लेकिन उसने उसको उठा लिया. The man was evidently used to sleeping with one eye open. उसका बज़ाहिर ये शख्स जो था वो उसके सोने की आदत ऐसी थी कि वो एक आँख बंद करता था और एक खुली रखता था. He jumped up abruptly and seemed to be quite frightened, and when his hat was moved away and he got frightened, he jumped up abruptly. अचानक वो खड़ा हो गया, बिल्कुल ऐसा लग रहा था कि वो बिल्कुल डर चुका था. My name is Idla Wilmanson, said the young girl. My father came home and said that you wanted to sleep here in the forge tonight, but then I asked permission to come and bring you home to us. and he first introduced herself that she is not her she's not her enemy. She's not his enemy, but she is a very simple lady, and she's uh, the daughter of the ironmaster, and wanted to do no harm to him. But in fact, she had come uh, to take him home along with her, so that he could not be compelled to spend a night in the फौज। यानी उसने इससे कहा कि वो उसे कोई तकलीफ़ देने के लिए नहीं आई है, बल्कि उसे अपने साथ लेने आई है, जैसा कि उसके बाप ने उसे कहा था, ताकि वो नाइट उनके साथ गुजारे, आराम से गुजारे, और फौज में वो बेआरामी जो भट्टी के पास वो बेआरामी की नाइट गुजार सकता था, उसे किसी हद तक उसे राहत मिले। देन आई आस्क्ड परमिशन टू कम एंड ब्रिंग यू होम टू अस। उसने कहा कि मैंने इजाज़त मांगी कि मैं आपको अपने साथ घर ले जाऊंगी। आई एम सो सॉरी कैप्टन दैट यू आर हैविंग सच अ हार्ड टाइम, एंड ही showed his extreme sorrow that the man is spending very hard time due to his ill luck or something else. She looked at him compassionately with her heavy eyes, and then she noticed that the man was afraid. And after this, after having a chat with him, she looked at him with love and with compassion, and she judged that the man was uh, very afraid. He was looking very much frightened. Either he has stolen something, or else he has escaped from jail, and he guessed that the man he's frightened because he has stolen something from anywhere, or he has escaped from a jail. He would have been a prisoner and have escaped from the jail. She thought and added quickly, "You may be sure, Captain, that you will be allowed to leave us just as freely as you came." And he, in order to uh, avoid, or in order to subside all the doubts which were developing in his heart of hearts, the headmaster's daughter addressed him quickly that you will be allowed to leave as freely as you came to their house. यानी जैसे वो उनके घर में आज़ादी से वहाँ दाखिल होने वाला है, और उसी तरह इसको वहाँ से आज़ादी के साथ वहाँ से निकलने भी दिया जाएगा। ये चीज़ें उसने कही थी कि ताकि वो किसी प्रेशर में ना रहे, किसी टेंशन में ना रहे। ओनली प्लीज़ स्टे विद अस ओवर क्रिसमस ईव। उसने कहा कि सिर्फ इस क्रिसमस की आमद पर, क्रिसमस डे पर आपको हमारी साथ एक नाइट गुजारनी है एज अ गेस्ट। She said this in such a friendly manner that the Rattrap peddler must have felt confidence in her, and his tone was so friendly, his tone was so decent, and the Rattrap's peddler or Rattrap seller felt a sigh of relief. He felt a confidence in her that he would not be harmed anyway. It would never have occurred to me that you would bother with me yourself, miss, he said. I will come at once. And he gave his consent that he will not no more bothering to accept his father's invitation or her invitation. He is now ready to go with them. उसने कहा कि अब उसे कोई परेशानी नहीं है, ये अब इस इनविटेशन को, इस दावतनामे को कबूल करने के लिए उसे अब कोई परेशानी नहीं है कि वो उनके साथ आए और एक रात वहाँ गुजारे। He accepted the fur coat with the velvet handed him with a deep bow, threw it over his rags and followed the young lady out to the carriage without granting the astonished blacksmith so much a glance. Now, what happened after this? The valet was carrying a fur coat. It was for the Rattrap seller, as I earlier discussed that this was, according to the ironmaster, perhaps it was a barrier between them and their invitation, because he was dressed, he was not properly dressed, he was dressed in rags. So fur coat was offered to him by the valet, and with a bow, means with a very humbleness. bow means showing very humbleness, यानी बड़ी आजिज़ी के साथ उसने उसे ये फर कोट दे दिया, ताकि उसे इस बात का एहसास न हो कि वो पुरानी फटे कपड़ों में मलबूस है, जिससे उसकी दिल आज़ारी हो सके या एक दीवार ये बन सके उस इनविटेशन और इसकी आमद के बीच में. थ्रू इट वर हिज रैग्स, उसने इन्हीं रैग्स के ढेर पर डाल दिया. एंड फॉलोड द यंग लेडी आउट टू द कैरेज, एंड आफ्टर दिस ही फॉलोड द लेडी दैट द headmaster's daughter and to the carriage which was waiting outside the gate without granting astonished blacksmith so much glance. And the blacksmith is, here the word is written astonished. All the developments which were taking place have set the blacksmith and his apprentice into astonishment. They were surprised how and why such developments are taking place. What's the secret behind this, that the ironmaster first then and his daughter has come and they are convincing, or they are persuading this miserly or the miserable Rattrap peddler to come along with them to spend a night there. But while he was riding up to the manor house, he had evil forebodings. But they were riding towards their abode, with the manor house, the house of the ironmaster, and some strong feeling that something bad is going to happen. He felt that something bad is going to happen. Forebodings means something, with the feeling indicates that something bad is going to happen soon with him. And this was the situation which was developing and creating in his mind. यानी एक ऐसी सूरत हाल पैदा हो चुकी थी उसके दिल दिमाग में. वो उसका मतलब ये था, उसका कहना ये था कि शायद कुछ न कुछ होने वाला है, और कुछ न कुछ बुरा होने वाला है. इस बुरे की, यानी उसे ये अपने आप ही में इसको बांप रहा था, दूसरे को नहीं बता रहा था. और क्या होने वाला था, कैसे होगा, क्या इसकी ये सोच सही निकली, गलत निकली, उसको हम दूसरे इस लेक्चर में डिस्कस करेंगे. थैंक यू वेरी मच.